Again, where we left off was this code here. Again, mostly you'll see it. You got incorrect moves, you have your character, and so on. Using the word and guessed letters, you can now compute a version of the word that hides the missing letters. For example, if the word for the round is Buccaneer, and the user has guessed the letters C, E, B, J, and the player sees B, C, C, E, E at the bottom of the screen, to begin, create a computed property called format word within the definition of game. There's one way to compute formatted word. So again, one of the problems is how do I make the label look like it should be the hangman kind of game, right? Whenever you do a game, you see the little dashes, right? The little lines. And that tells you how many words you have too, right? So you need to have little dashes for each letter for the word you're trying to guess, because that helps you learn, hey, what word you're trying to guess. You know, hey, how many characters it is, right? So that's what they're talking about here. Okay, you need to be able to have visually have the dashes in there so that the person knows how many letters they should be choosing. That's what they're talking about. Begin with an empty string variable. Loop through each character of the word. If the character is in the guessed letters, convert it to a string, then append the letter into the variable. Otherwise, append the dash into the variable. Variable formatted word string. Variable guessed word for letter in word characters. So basically, this is just checking to see if the word is in the characters. If guessed letter contains the letter, you'll add the letter. Else, you'll continue with the dash, return guess word. So that's sort of what they're talking about in this area right here. So where should this go? In the down here in the new round? UI update? Yes. Where is it here? I'm looking. What are we looking for? Variable formatted word. This one has the words, but that's the last one. Hold on, I'm looking at the other one here. Did they put it in the games? They put it in the game. This example from the previous class, we put it in the game down here. Do you see that? Underneath the game struck. So in this example, the previous class example, they actually put it in the game Swift down here. So I guess it's part of the logic of the game. So what was it? Variable formatted word, capital W, which is a string. And then, of course, they have a guessed word. And then a for loop. It's taking letter in the word. And then an if statement. if the guessed letters contains the letter hold on, then do what? We want it to do what? Add guess word to the letter. Else, oh, we need a else guess word is blank. Oops, wrong one. Okay, let's see. And then we have to return guess word to get the data out. So let's read it again. If guessed letters, so the guessed word is here. So this whole format word is basically the dashes. So it's checking to see. What do we got wrong here? Which one do I have wrong?
The one next to the two. You don't need that one. You just need to close it.
This one. Okay. And then you need to return your value so you can get some data out of here. So saying I have too many, is that it? Yes. Okay, again, I put this in the GameSwift at the bottom. And it looks like that's all from the previous class. That's all we did was put it down here at the bottom. Now that the formatted word is a property that your UI can display, try using it for the text of current word label inside the update UI. So again, the update UI is where it kind of runs every time you push a button, right? You got to update the UI. Again, it needs to update what? The tree, and then it needs to update the label. So you got two things you got three things actually. When they push a word, a letter, that letter needs to be grayed out, right? Then your tree needs to update, or in this case, a frog, and then the label needs to be updated if that word was inside the word. I guess if that makes any sense. So let me go back to the storyboard. Here I am with too many windows open. Let me remove that. Okay, so if we go over here to the update UI, right here, let me make some space here. So we can add the correct word label inside there, inside here. So in this case, you could put in correct word label dot text equals current game dot formatted word, spell current, right? Lowercase. So now that the formatted word is a property that your UI can display, try using it in the text of current word label inside of the update UI. So where's the current word label come from? It's this one right here. I must have spelled it wrong. So it's the actual word. It's the name of the label that's on the screen. Let me copy that. Make sure I spelled it right. There we go. Again, we're using the label that's out here, right here, right? You can click on it and see what it is. See, if I roll the marker over it, so you're using the word here, the actual outlet here. See, you have an outlet here. The current word label is the current word. I just put this text in here to remind you what this is right here. So if you roll the mouse over, you can see it up here. When you have your outlets over here, right? Your outlets are here. So you have the current word label, which is the current word label. You want to update the text with what we just formatted. The current game and the formatted word. Current game is the game you're working on, and the formatted word is the word right here. Well, at least the brains of the word right there. Build and run your application. Letters will be added to the guest letters collection as you select and format words. You will recalculate whenever it's accessed in the update UI. You may notice new issues because multiple underscores appear as solid lines in the interface. It can be difficult to tell how many letters are in the word. One solution would be to add spaces during your computation of formatted word, but this issue is purely about improving the interface, not meddling with the computer data. A better solution would be to add spaces when you update the text of the current add word label. Okay, so let's run it and see if it actually puts dashes in there. I think that's sort of what they're trying to say. If I could find it. So again, it's just one big long dash. There's no space between the letter. And of course it's Apple, but it's not going to change because we haven't finished yet. But you'll notice it's a solid line over there, but there should be spaces between the Apple or each letter, right? That's what they're talking about in the next area right here. So in this case, what they're talking about here would be better to add some space between each one, separate by giving a, here's an example. Let cast be blah, 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 blah. Let list cast join separator with a comma, and you can see then it has a comma between each of them. How can you imagine using the join separator method to set current word label? Again, the current word label is this right here, corrected word right here. So we're trying to put a space between each of the characters. Start by converting the array of characters in formatted word into an array of strings. Use a for loop to store each of the newly created strings into a string array. Then you can call the join separator method to join the new collections together separated by a blank space. Again, here's the blank space right there. You can see it right here. So again, you're going to take the letters in the current game and add them to a string, and then let words with spacing, which is a consonant here, in letters joined by a space between them. Then correct word label, text, word spacing, and then they put it on the screen. So again, under the function UI right here in the func update UI there, first thing they're going to do is make take the variable letters and convert it to a string. Convert it to a string. Then append that string. What did they say here? To properly set the text of the current word label, you can use a Swift method called join separator that operates an array of strings. This function conjugates the collection of strings into one string separated by a given value. Here's an example. Again, they have the little comma here. See it right there? So we want to take the actual correct word label and add the spacing. So the spacing is the separator that's going to be between them. So for letter in current game dot formatted word. Is it formatted one R, 2 T's. So you're basically changing, string. You're changing the letter to put spaces in between. Then you're going to separate them using the join separator. And they're just calling it word with spacing. And then that separator is going to be a blank space, like that. So it should be a blank space in there. Then you add the correct word label. You change it. So you're basically taking this right here. This right here. I'm going to copy that. And you're putting it into this right here. So the last step is to put it in there. How you put it in there is you let the word spacing or correct word label text and change it to there. So again, this is called, this box right here, of course, is called correct word label. And so right here, we're going to change it to word spacing. Word spacing. Like that. Word spacing? S-P-A-C-I-N-G space. With spacing, I'm sorry. With spacing. So again, we're going to take this that we made right here, and we're going to put it here. Because what it's going to do is, instead of putting, because right before, this corrected word label was going to be the game information, but you took the game information and you reformatted it with the spaces, is basically what it's saying. If that makes any sense. So now it should have spaces in there. Let's try it. So now you have Apple, A-P-P-L-E. A-P-P-L. Where's E? Oh, E's all the way over here. So again, what was this all about? Again, this was all about, this area right here was all about changing the current game to a new formatted, which has spaces in between. Because before it was just one big solid line. That's all this was. And then what does this do here? That's the name of the box, or this corrected word. You change the text to this. Okay, again, what is this? This is going to be the current game with the formatted word with now spaces by using the joined separator. So that's what they were kind of talking about, all in this area right here. And remember, you're just changing this. Before it just said current, it had game in here, right? You change it to word spacing there. Okay, last part is part 5, handle a win or loss. Apple Pie is starting to feel like a real game. The round is progressing along, each button pressed, but there are 2 obvious issues. The first is that the incorrect moves can go below 0. And the second is the player can't win a game even if they guess all the letters correctly. When an incorrect move remaining reaches 0, total losses should be incremented and a new round should begin. It would be nice to have a single method that checks the game state to see if a win or loss has occurred, and if so, update the total wins and total losses. Create a method called update game state that will perform this work and call it after each button pressed instead of calling update UI. So again, they're talking about making a new method called update game state, a new function, update game state, and then put that into the button tapped area so that it is triggered every time somebody pushes the button, right? Because you need to check that. So in this case, they have a new function. They kind of put it up here. I would say they put it up here, kind of underneath the update button tapped here. So they have a new function, FUNC, update game state, update game state, they called it. And of course, we put our round brackets and then our curly bracket. Then put it up here where the button tapped is, and you can put update game state in there. And then round bracket like that. So again, this would be called every time somebody taps the button. What are we going to put in there? Well, you need to determine wins, loss, or the player should continue playing. A game is lost if incorrect moves reaches 0. When it does increment loss, total losses, you should determine that the game has been won if the player has not yet lost and the current game's word property is equal to the formatted word. Formatted word won't have any underscore if every letter has been successfully guessed. When that happens, increment total wins. If a game has not been won or lost yet, the player should be allowed to continue guessing, and the interface should be updated. So in update game state, you're kind of going to do an if statement. They have if statements here. And it's just basically testing to see, again, if the current moves is 0, then add 1 to the total losses. Else, if the current game is the formatted word, so again, what is formatted word? That's this box right here, of course. in the current game. If it's totally formatted, then you add a win and you update your UI. So here in update, we're going to put this if statement right here. So if the current game incorrect moves remaining is equal to, remember 2 equals is equal to 0, then what? Well, they lost. So you're going to update total losses is updated by 1. Then we're going to put an else in there. Oops. Else if the current game dot word is equal to current game formatted word, then add total wins is plus equal to 1. Then you have another else. So if they haven't won yet, basically, then you update the UI, which means they can do another round, right? So again, they can update the UI is basically continue playing. So again, this every time they tap the button, it's going to test this right here. It's going to test this. And it's going to test to see if, of course, incorrect moves reach 0, which they have 8, right? I believe 8. It counts down. 7. Yeah. Then it'll add 1 to the losses. Else, if the word is completely formatted, if this word is completely formatted, then you won the game. Then you update the UI. Then you have to do a new round, huh? After that. So again, let's talk about new round. So if they win the game, they have to do a new round. So build and run your application. Is the game functioning properly? Really close, but a new round does not begin after a win or loss. Whatever total wins or total losses changes, a new round can be started. So this is a great time to add a did set property, observe to total wins and total losses. So what is the did set? I guess it checks to see if something was been changed. So it did set. I don't know where that goes. Is that in? So again, let me look at the other one. So this variable that they're talking about here, this one right here, variable total wins, did set new round, variable total losses equals 0, new round. They put it up here at the top, around correct moves. So these variables, see total wins equals 0 right here. So we need to put a did set in there. is what they're talking about. So up here you would put did set. This is like restarting the game, I guess. New round.
The internet, I just looked up what did set does.
Uh-huh.
It just kind of checks, like, did the value change?
Yeah.
And if it did, do something.
Update the game, basically.
Yeah,
New round, new round.
It says run the function.
Yeah.
If
New round.
the variable changes.
If I spelled new round right, did I spell it? Where's new round? New round. It's down here. New round right there. What's wrong with that? New round. And then, of course, oh, I have too many of these now. They make it look pretty here. Why does it give me... I gotta put a capital S in there. Okay, so we have did set there. It's still giving me an error here. What's wrong with total wins? Oh no, it's gone now. Okay, so then we could just copy this and paste that. Okay, so again, if total wins equals 0, you keep going, basically. Now try running your application. Verify that both wins and losses are tallying up according to the new round begins. Okay, let me save first. I need to go, what, 8? Loss. Ooh, I got a C. What is the word? Ooh, I got a loss. Three losses. I guess I can't go anymore because they're all been disabled. Okay. We're getting close. At least you got spaces in there and your losses are happening. Re-enable buttons and fix crash. It looks like you've been approaching the finish line. You're successfully able to complete a round of apple pie, but a new round doesn't enable the letter buttons. Also, you try to start a new round and there's no more words to choose from. The game will crash. The new round logic needs to be a little smarter. If a list of words isn't empty, then you should perform the same work that you did previously, but also re-enable all the buttons. If there are no more words to play with, disable all the buttons so that the player cannot continue playing the game. So in the new round function is where you're going to do that. Down here in the new round. So basically, so they put an if statement in here in the new round. If the list of words is empty, then do what? If the list of words is empty,
You want to put the let new word current game update UI inside of the if.
where?
The stuff that you have below your, you want that in the if. No, up. Yeah, the let new word, all that stuff needs to go in the if.
Oh, this is in the wrong spot. There we go, like that.
Yeah.
So, oh, and then I probably need
You need to close it.
I need another one. Okay. So if the list of words is empty, let new word list of words remove first. That gets the first word in the group. Current game. game, word, new word, remaining movies, correct moves, guest letter, enable letter buttons true. I have something in here. Enable letter buttons true, and it has an update UI. Where's enable letter buttons? I haven't made enable letter buttons yet.
No, not yet.
So then there's an else statement in here. Else. And what else do we want? Enable letter buttons false. We'll spell it right. How about we copy it? And then down below is where we need to make a function for enable letter buttons. That's why I keep giving you an error message, because you haven't made it yet. So we can make a function. The enable letter buttons method is fairly straightforward. It takes a boolean as an argument, and it uses the parameters to enable or disable the collection of buttons by looping through them. So you have a function enable. Well, I think I have it in memory already. There you go. And makes it a boolean. Capital B. And then it loops through using a for loop. Is a button is enabled is enabled. If that makes sense. Yes. Then we have two brackets. The enable letter buttons method is fairly straightforward. It takes a boolean as an argument and is used the parameters to enable or disable the collection of buttons by looping through them. So again, it's going to go through the buttons here. If you build and run your application, you'll be able to get through all the apple pie rounds until the end is reached and the buttons are disabled. So let's try it. Apple, A, P, P, L. That's not an L? Oh, that was I, L, E. And again, it starts a new round. Do you notice it looped through all these and reset them all up? That's what they were talking about. What is my next word? Dole. Peach? Who thinks it's a peach? Okay, I won 2 rounds. How about we do a harder word? I'm not getting anything here. What's it? N. Oh, strawberry. That's what it is. Let's see if I lose what happens. I get 1 loss. Congratulations on building your first mobile game with Swift. By successfully completing Apple Pie, you've demonstrated understanding of the building blocks of Swift language. The project isn't easy, and you should be proud that you've accomplished. If you're struggling to follow along with the steps, set aside some time to rebuild Apple Pie on your own without this guide. A second run-through will point out areas that you may have misunderstood. If you'd like to continue working on Apple Pie, try some of these other features. Challenge yourself by adding a map. Learn about the map method and use it to place a loop that converts an array of characters to an array of strings in the update UI. add a scoring feature that awards points for each correct guess and additional points for each successful word completion. Allow multiple players to play switching turns after each incorrect guess. Allow the player to guess the full word using keyboards instead of guessing one letter at a time using the interface buttons. Support letters with special characters. For example, the E button should check if the E and the E with an accent is a word. And that was it. So again, you probably didn't understand all of it, I understand, but most of it, you should have the concepts, I guess, is the most important part.
Can I say something?
Yeah?
You're getting a characters is deprecated error. I got that too until I removed the word characters. Apparently you don't need it because it still works the same. You don't need the word characters removed.
So we don't even need this, you're
You
saying?
don't need the word characters
At all.
at all.
Just take it out.
Yeah, and it still works the same. All the times that they have the deprecated error. But there's some in the game.
And the game logic,
Yeah, the game dot source.
if I can find it. So you don't need this at all.
No, you need that one.
Oh,
Oh wait, no, you don't. Yeah, anytime that says deprecated, yeah, remove it.
and it
Still works the same.
still works the same. Okay.
What's behind your
So what can we do to make it better? Randomize the word? Could we do that? So that it's not Apple every time I play the game first? How could you do that? Here's the list of words. Can you randomize the list of words every time a new round is done? How could you reorder them? Or we could put a new list of words. Or maybe we could have a button that says pick a genre, and then they have different list of words. What do you think of that?